We're hit by severe storms today with hail popping up to our east in Iowa and tornadoes to our west near Columbus.
Chief Meteorologist Emily Roller takes a look at the severe weather season and just how often tornadoes hit the area.
When you think about severe weather season in Nebraska, you think of hail, strong winds, and tornadoes. On average, Nebraska sees between 40 to 50 tornadoes per year, but that number can be significantly higher and in recent years, lower. It's been about 20 years since we've seen a big spike in activity. 2004 brought more than 100 tornadoes to Nebraska. Brian Bargenbrook with the National Weather Service in Valley has worked here since 2017 and says there isn't a good way to predict when our next very active year could be.
The cause of this is really uncertain. We're in Nebraska. It's a highly variable area. From year to year, everything is going to vary a lot. I think the biggest thing to take away is just that it only actually takes one to really cause an issue where you are at.
One severe weather day can change the tornado numbers quickly for the year. And although recent years have not brought as many, weather has still been quite active.
I think back to my first week here in 2017, we had 100-mile-per-hour winds go through the Omaha metro area. I think to a day a couple years ago with 3-inch hail and winds stronger than 100 miles per hour near Seward.
Looking back at the number of yearly tornadoes since 1950, you can see a significant increase in the last 70 years. But population and technology might have more to do with that than the weather. In 1950, 1.3 million people lived in Nebraska. Now, that number is approaching 2 million. More people means more reports.
Our radar currently can see debris signatures from some of these tornadoes, and so things that we wouldn't have known about 30 or 40 years ago, we're now able to see on radar and then go investigate that and find the damage.
While the last 20 years for Nebraska have produced fewer tornadoes, the same cannot be said for Iowa, which has seen several spikes of more than 100 tornadoes per year since the early 2000s. Bargenbrook says this is likely due to the jet stream setup we've seen in recent years.
Western Nebraska needs a little more time and a little different angle to get the moisture there. So when we think about the state as a whole, comparing western Nebraska to eastern Nebraska to Iowa, generally speaking, when you're farther east, Iowa has a little better chance to get the moisture into the area that tornadoes need.
So what about our pattern this summer? Forecasts point to a shift to La Nina after a fairly strong El Nino year. While El Nino years tend to not bring a very high severe weather outlook to our region, La Nina years tend to lean toward a slightly higher average. And the question so many want to know?
So is there any way to actually predict how much severe weather, tornadoes in particular, that any year might bring or maybe has a higher tendency to bring?
In this part of the country, not really.
With the 6 First Alert Weather Team, this is Chief Meteorologist Emily Roller.